Hi and welcome to Let's Talk Pilgrimage. Today in this video we're going to ask a basic question that should be at the heart of the planning of any Holy Land pilgrimage or just travels to the Holy Land, which also relates to Christian pilgrimage in general, religious travel to any place in the world. In order to do that, I'm going to refer to the three anthropological theories of pilgrimage. Now, sometimes we don't like the word theory. We think theory is theoretical, but I've also heard it said that there's nothing more practical than a good theory. What theories do is just simply help us ask the right questions. It helps us to frame experience in positive ways and helps us to ultimately get more out of the experience. So these three anthropological theories of pilgrimage are very simple. The first one is called the structural theory. Now, even that kind of seems like a big word. It comes from the religious philosophy of Emil Durkheim. And in it, it basically says that pilgrimage is something that supports structures that are already in place. So maybe equate the idea of structures with the status quo. You can the idea of structures being with the people already in power, the people running the narrative. And so there's certain pilgrimages that the narrative, the whole activity really promotes more of a national and regional sense of identity. You go on that pilgrimage, there's a sense of belonging, but that sense of belonging is again more to the structures in place, more to the status quo. And that's the structural theory of pilgrimage. And so that would have you ask the question, if you're on religious travel, if you come to the Holy Land, how are you and do you want to support the powers that be, the status quo in place, the forms of power? And if that's the case, then you're doing the first type of pilgrimage, or it becomes a question to ask and critique the type of pilgrimage you're on. The second theory, and unsurprisingly, is just the opposite. And it comes in particular from the writers as a married couple, Victor and Edith Turner, and their theory is the anti-structural. So they say that what happens in pilgrimage is that an anti-structural community is formed, an alternative community, and the whole process, the whole phenomena, the whole movement of pilgrimage in that sense of community is against the powers that be. It's anti-structural, it's alternative values, alternative vision of the world, alternative way of being. Now, it's not what we're going to get into in this video, but a part of that theory, which is also very important, is that the Turners see this as a type of liminal, or what they call liminoid, because it's liminal-like experience, and they would see the pilgrim community in this type of context as being one that they call communitas, where the relationships among the people in that community are very easily formed. There's sense where the hierarchy breaks down, where relationships are more equal. There's almost kind of a quasi-spirituality to the sense of community and relationships. That's going to be a different video, but basically we want to ask a more simple question of the second theory, which we could call anti-structural. It's against the status quo. It's against the powers to be, or maybe a more positive term is it's an alternative vision of equality and of community. Now, the third theory of pilgrimage, which is associated with two scholars in particular, John Eade and Michael Salno, and their book that represents this most is called Contesting the Sacred. I'll put links of that down below. It basically says, again to no surprise, this is how academics work, is that pilgrimage is neither of the two. It's neither structural or anti-structural, or say it perhaps in a different way. At any given pilgrimage field, pilgrimage location, pilgrimage destination, like Jerusalem, like Lourdes, like Santiago, there are multiple narratives. There are multiple things that are happening, and these are contested narratives that don't necessarily fit together. Now that theory in and of itself doesn't have bullet points. It doesn't have, there's no skeleton or meat to it, because you have to then look at every particular pilgrimage field to, like go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, go to the Alaska Mosque or the Temple Mount, and see what are those competing narratives. There might be an official narrative, there might be people officially in power, but there's all sorts of people with different ideas, different aspirations, different agendas. So if you're a pilgrim leader, or if you're even just on a pilgrimage, even if you don't call it a pilgrimage, even if it's just religious travel, either domestically or internationally, this is the most basic question. Religious travel is never just simply innocent. It's not just something we do for fun. We are always gauging structures, powers, human relationships, and so we need to ask our questions just out of a sense of Christian mission and virtue and position. Does our presence, does our program, does our journey into whatever pilgrimage field and country and community that we're going, which group does it support? Which powers does it challenge? Which aspirations does it build up? And that can become a very basic frame. And of course, at no place more than at the Holy Land, where among all the different people that one should come and to listen to their voices, we certainly believe that the starting point should be, from a Christian point of view, should be listening to the indigenous Christians in the land, the Palestinian Christians, how people following Jesus and the Christian movement have spoken Arabic ever since Pentecost 2,000 years ago, and how the indigenous Arab-speaking people of the land are people to support, to listen to, how then the city is full of Christian denominations from all over the world, Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, and then as a commitment to interfaith virtues and values, in the sense of seeing Jerusalem for what it is today, being able to engage and observe all three of the Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and also being able to listen to and to understand the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and to listen to the voices, remembering the questions of power and structure, and how you want your presence and your pilgrimage to align, to support, or to challenge what's here on the ground. That's us. Let's talk pilgrimage from Jerusalem. See you next time.